Raghav Malhotra and Meera Sethi's dream wedding turned into a nightmare when hidden betrayals and deadly secrets came to light in a Dubai hotel. Aarav began noticing small changes in Meera's behavior during the days leading up to the wedding. She often slipped away from group gatherings, claiming she needed fresh air or a quick call with a friend. Whenever she returned, her expression appeared tense, and she avoided eye contact longer than usual. These moments were brief, yet frequent enough to unsettle him. Guests assumed she was overwhelmed by the emotional weight of the ceremony, but Aarav sensed something deeper, something she was trying hard to hide. Hotel staff unknowingly added to his unease. A concierge mentioned seeing Meera late one evening in a quiet hallway near the conference rooms, speaking urgently with a man whose face was turned away from the cameras. Another worker noticed her standing alone near the service elevators, appearing upset as she checked her phone repeatedly. Each detail reached Aarav through casual conversations, planting seeds of suspicion he struggled to shake off. During rehearsals and family dinners, Meera seemed distracted. She scrolled through her phone constantly, grew restless during long ceremonies, and stepped out repeatedly to take calls. Aarav tried reasoning with himself, telling his mind not to jump to conclusions. Yet every unanswered question added more weight to his growing discomfort. Even Meera's family appeared confused by her sudden withdrawal. They dismissed her behavior as pre-wedding anxiety, focusing instead on last-minute preparations. Aarav attempted to do the same, but a quiet voice inside him insisted something was wrong. The celebration sparkled on the surface, but beneath the glamour, the first cracks had begun to appear in a truth Meera could no longer keep hidden. Meera's unusual behavior became more noticeable as the wedding day drew closer, creating a quiet sense of tension that only Aarav seemed to detect. She often excused herself from gatherings, slipping away during rehearsals and family rituals with vague explanations. At first, Aarav tried to convince himself she simply needed breaks from the overwhelming celebrations, but the pattern grew too consistent to ignore. Each time she returned, she appeared unsettled, her smile fading too quickly and her hands trembling slightly as she adjusted her jewelry or looked down at her phone. Hotel employees unintentionally deepened Aarav's concern. One staff member mentioned seeing Meera in an off-limits maintenance hallway, speaking anxiously on her phone while pacing back and forth. Another recalled spotting her during the early hours of the morning near the rooftop garden, staring at the city lights with an expression that suggested she was carrying a burden too heavy for someone about to be married. These remarks were innocent in tone, but they echoed in Aarav's mind long after the conversations ended. During traditional ceremonies, Meera remained physically present but emotionally distant. She missed cues, forgot details she had previously been excited about, and appeared startled whenever someone approached her unexpectedly. Her relatives reassured Aarav that pre-wedding stress could make any bride behave differently, but he struggled to accept that explanation. Meera had always been composed, even under pressure, and this version of her felt like someone trying desperately to keep control over a secret slipping out of her hands. The celebrations continued, but a subtle darkness lingered around Meera's actions, hinting that the truth she was hiding was far more serious than anyone imagined. Aarav's growing uncertainty eventually pushed him to search for clarity on his own. While Meera prepared for one of the final ceremonies, she left her laptop on the dresser of their hotel suite. Aarav approached it with hesitation, telling himself he only wanted reassurance. But the moment he opened it, he stumbled into a truth far more devastating than the doubts he carried. A series of hidden folders caught his attention, each protected with passwords that were surprisingly easy for him to guess. Inside, he found messages and photos that revealed a secret relationship between Meera and his uncle Raghav. The conversation showed months of communication filled with emotional confessions, private meetings, and travel plans, disguised as work obligations. Aarav learned that the affair had not only existed before the engagement, but had continued even during wedding preparations. Their messages made it clear that Meera had struggled to end the relationship, but felt pressured by her family's expectations. Raghav's tone suggested he was unwilling to let her go, creating a dynamic filled with manipulation and hidden tension. Aarav scrolled through the evidence with trembling hands, feeling each message strike him like a physical shock. Photos taken at family gatherings revealed small exchanges he had never noticed before, glances, gestures, proximity that now appeared unmistakably intimate. Every detail shattered the trust he believed he shared with Meera, and deepened the betrayal he felt from someone he considered a guiding figure in the family. Despite the overwhelming pain, Aarav made a deliberate decision to stay silent until the wedding concluded. He feared the explosive consequences of revealing the truth too soon. Instead, he buried the emotional weight, standing through the ceremonies while the evidence consumed him from within, preparing him for the confrontation he knew could no longer be avoided. After the final ceremony ended and the celebrations slowly faded, Aarav retreated to the bridal suite with the heavy truth he had discovered weighing down every step. The moment the door closed behind them, the atmosphere shifted from festive warmth to an icy tension that filled the entire room. Meera sensed immediately that something was wrong. Aarav placed the evidence he had found on the table, messages, photos, and call logs that exposed the secret she had tried desperately to keep hidden. The reality of her affair with Raghav could no longer be avoided or explained away. Meera's face drained of color as she realized the depth of what Aarav had uncovered. Her carefully held composure collapsed under the pressure of being exposed. She understood that the consequences reached far beyond the marriage itself. Families would be shattered, reputations destroyed, and the wedding that had just concluded would instantly transform into a scandal. Every moment of happiness they had displayed publicly now felt hollow and staged, overshadowed by the truth that had come crashing into the room. Aarav's pain filled the silence, creating a distance between them wider than anything words could bridge. Meera paced the room restlessly, overwhelmed by fear, guilt, and uncertainty. She gripped her phone tightly as if searching for some escape, some solution, some way to undo the irreversible damage. The weight of betrayal pressed down on both of them in completely different ways. Aarav suffocated by heartbreak and disbelief, Meera drowning in panic and impending judgment. Unable to bear the suffocating atmosphere, Meera rushed out of the suite, leaving behind the wedding dress, the decorations, and the man she was supposed to build a life with. The confrontation had pushed her to a breaking point, and her sudden disappearance marked the beginning of a tragic night neither of them could have foreseen. Meera's sudden exit from the suite marked the beginning of a restless and unsettling night inside the luxury hotel. Surveillance cameras later revealed her wandering through multiple floors, her movements rapid and unfocused. She stepped into dim hallways, deserted lounges, and quiet corners where the noise of the wedding could no longer reach her. Her posture suggested someone overwhelmed by fear and desperation, constantly checking behind her as though she expected someone to follow. Every few minutes she pulled out her phone, scrolling through messages and attempting unanswered calls, her anxiety growing with each failed attempt. Staff members going about their night duties noticed her distress. A housekeeping attendant saw her standing alone near the emergency staircase, gripping the railing with trembling hands. Another spotted her outside the banquet hall, staring at the wedding decor as if the celebration had become an unbearable reminder of the truth she could no longer hide. Despite their concerns, no one approached her, assuming she simply needed space during an emotional moment. Around midnight, Meera returned to the 27th floor, the corridor quiet and empty. She entered the bridal suite alone, her steps unsteady as she closed the door behind her. The room, once prepared for a night of joy, now felt cold and suffocating. Furniture remained untouched, and the bridal accessories lay scattered where she had dropped them earlier. Hotel guests staying nearby later recalled hearing muffled noises, objects hitting the floor, hurried footsteps, and sudden silence that followed. Aarav, unable to face Meera again, spent the night in a different room, trying to steady his thoughts. Meanwhile, Raghav kept his distance, avoiding all contact as he remained locked inside his own suite. With every passing hour, the atmosphere of the hotel shifted from celebratory to uneasy. Though no one yet understood the tragic turn the night was about to take, early the next morning, the luxury hotel shifted from its usual calm elegance to an atmosphere filled with quiet panic. Housekeeping staff knocked on the bridal suite door for routine cleaning, expecting the newlywed couple to be asleep after a long night of celebrations. When no one responded, they assumed the couple was simply resting, but after repeated attempts, the silence became concerning. Eventually, a senior staff member used the master key to check inside, stepping into a room that felt strangely untouched yet tense, as if the night had held something heavy. The suite appeared unusually still. Decorative pieces from the wedding preparation were scattered across the floor, and a few items of jewelry lay abandoned near the dresser. A half-empty glass sat on the table, and the curtains remained drawn, casting dim shadows throughout the room. The staff called out to Meera, but no reply came. As they moved deeper into the suite, they reached the bathroom and discovered the door slightly ajar. Inside, Meera lay motionless on the cold marble floor. Her wedding attire, partially changed from the night before, was wrinkled and damp. There were no obvious signs of external injury, and the room showed no evidence of a physical struggle. The scene left the staff in shock, prompting immediate calls to hotel security and emergency services. Paramedics arrived quickly, but Meera was pronounced dead at the scene. Within minutes, the entire floor was cordoned off. Guests were quietly redirected, and employees were instructed not to speak to anyone about what they had seen. Word of Meera's death spread rapidly through both families, leaving everyone in disbelief. What had begun as a lavish celebration had now transformed into a tragedy no one could comprehend. Dubai authorities immediately took charge of the situation, sealing the bridal suite and initiating a thorough investigation. Forensic teams arrived with specialized equipment, carefully documenting every detail of the room before collecting evidence. Meera's phone, found on the bathroom counter with several deleted messages, became a crucial starting point. When investigators recovered the erased data, they uncovered a chain of emotional exchanges between Meera and Raghav. The messages revealed escalating tension, fear, and plans for secret meetings, suggesting the affair had been far more complicated than anyone initially assumed. Security footage from various hotel floors also raised questions. Cameras captured Raghav standing outside the bridal suite shortly before Meera returned to the room that night. He appeared agitated, pacing in front of the door, checking his phone repeatedly and leaving abruptly just minutes before Meera entered. Investigators compared these images with timestamps from Meera's recovered messages and noticed they matched the timeline of her last known communications. Meanwhile, forensic tests revealed the presence of sedatives in Meera's system. The dosage was significant enough to impair her judgment and physical coordination. This discovery shifted the investigation away from accidental death and toward the possibility of criminal involvement. Authorities traced the prescription back to medication belonging to Raghav, raising immediate suspicion. As the evidence mounted, police questioned Aarav and Raghav separately. Aarav's heartbreak and confusion were evident, while Raghav grew increasingly defensive under scrutiny. Family members were stunned as the truth unraveled piece by piece, realizing the tragedy extended far beyond betrayal. The investigation was no longer just about an affair, it was now pointing toward deliberate actions that may have cost Meera her life. Raghav's composure began to crumble as investigators confronted him with the findings from the hotel room, the security footage, and the forensic report. Days of questioning had worn him down, and the mounting evidence left little room for denial. Eventually, he admitted that he had met Meera on the wedding night. He described her in a distressed state, panicked about the affair being exposed and overwhelmed by the consequences she feared would follow. Raghav claimed he only wanted to calm her, but the investigation suggested a far different reality hidden beneath his words. Authorities examined inconsistencies in his statements. He initially denied giving Meera anything, yet toxicology reports showed a sedative that matched the prescription found in his belongings. Investigators believed he provided the drug to ease her anxiety, but the dosage was far greater than what would be considered safe. Combined with her fragile emotional state and the tense confrontation earlier in the evening, The sedative severely impaired her ability to think clearly or protect herself. The evidence painted a picture of a vulnerable woman pushed beyond her limits. Hotel footage showing Raghav lingering near the suite shortly before Meera's final return added more weight to the case against him. His rushed exit, followed by Meera's disappearance into the room where she was later found unresponsive, strengthened the suspicion that he had played a direct role in the chain of events leading to her death. Facing overwhelming proof, investigators charged him with involvement in her demise. Aarav, shattered by betrayal and grief, returned to India with the burden of a wedding that ended in tragedy instead of celebration. Families who had come together in joy were now divided by shock, guilt, and unanswered questions. The story became a haunting reminder of how hidden relationships, emotional manipulation, and secrecy can unravel lives in ways no one can foresee, leaving behind scars that time may never fully heal.